Let me tell you a story.
One you might not know.
You might see the scars.
But most aren't on show.
I'm Dani Winter-Bates, and this is Identity Stories, a show in which we're exploring one of the most powerful subjects ever to be undertaken by the writers of Coronation Street. I'm talking about an uncompromising depiction of hate crime, tackled head-on in a storyline concerning the vicious assault of Nina Lucas and Seb Franklin that ultimately results in Seb's death. And the reason for the assault? Because Nina is perceived to be different to others, in the way she dresses and looks, representing a member of the alternative subculture. What makes the circumstances on screen even deeper, more real, is that they're based on a tragic true event. In 2007, Sophie Lancaster died after she and her boyfriend were brutally attacked in a park by 5 boys, simply because of their appearance. She was 20. The story is close to my heart, not only as a member of the alternative subculture and a frontman of a professional rock band. It speaks to my advocacy work and my feelings there is still much to be done in breaking down stigma and supporting an inclusive environment for all to strive in safety. Back when I was 15 years old, I was assaulted by a man because of the way I looked. Amazingly, that moment stayed with me and forced me onto the path I've been on. I'm not alone. Many are bullied, abused, harassed and assaulted for their individuality and difference. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to discuss these themes, shared in the storyline with the actors who brought it to life on our screens. So what emotional and psychological impact has the hate crime storyline had on the young cast at its centre, especially given the senseless murder that informed it? Mollie Gallagher, Millie Gibson, Tanisha Gorey and Maximus Evans play Nina, Kelly, Asha and Corrie, respectively. And they're with us today to share their identity stories.
Have you felt uncomfortable for just being you? Like everyone's watching all that you do?
At the heart of the story is Nina, variously described as a freak, corpse bride and a vampire by her tormentors. In one scene, Corrie asks her if she and Asha have had sex in a coffin. Until Seb's murder, Nina seems comfortable in her own skin. Thereafter, she starts to question her own identity as she struggles to cope with feelings of guilt and self-loathing.
It's like my mind has merged everything into one. All the names I've been called, every attack. And now I can't tell them apart. What if they're right, Roy? That I've been wrong all this time? What if I am a freak?
You are no such thing.
But I am.
So, Mollie, you play Nina
Yeah.
in the show. And I kind of particularly wanted to talk to you about getting into the role. I know you kind of managed to have a chat with Sylvie, Sylvie Lancaster from the Lancaster Foundation, and obviously, especially like usually you're getting into character, you're getting into a scene, but that is like a, a true story that's out there.
Yeah.
How is that getting into that specific?
Obviously, it's when something is a true story, it's difficult because you want to do it justice. I'm obviously the actor playing the role, and I haven't experienced that, and so you just do the best you can in terms of research, and talking to Sylvia was amazing. She told us the story, and to hear from her, I was very grateful for that, and it was helpful. And obviously there's a lot of stuff online, so I did my own research beforehand. I watched some good stuff, especially it was Murdered for Being Different, which we all watched, didn't we? And that was very, very helpful.
I think because, like Mollie just said, it's a true story, so it's a completely different ballgame. I mean, as much as Coronation Street and other soaps want to relate to true life and keeping up to social standards and stuff like that, it's great, and obviously the writers and the producers and everyone have their own freedom to do that and make it their own. But because it's a true story, again, you want to do justice for the storyline. You want to make sure you're not even being offensive, you're not saying something in the wrong tone, because I know tone of voice was quite a big thing. You've got to be careful with the lines that you have to make sure, again, it's not offensive, it's not rude or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it was just because it's such a delicate subject, we knew that we had to get it dead on. But, Murdered for Being Different, and then obviously all the online research was really helpful. And obviously Sylvia with the foundation and stuff, there's a lot there that we already knew. And I think a lot of, like personally, I knew about Sophie Lancaster before, you know, we got offered this storyline. And it's just awful and it's hideous, but when you're looking into the minute detail of the actual literal attack, you know, it just shows, it's just horrendous.
How do you feel, Millie, on it?
I think it was just an honour to be even asked to be a part of portraying something like this, because it's not like you're going into devs asking for a packet of crisps. You're actually like, you know, doing something adaptable to the show and really important to the show. And we knew how much attention it was going to get, so it's like what Tanisha said, it was just doing Sylvia justice and doing Sophie justice and then doing Seb justice in the process. I remember listening to the radio play Stone, which was loosely based on the Sophie Lancaster attack, and then also Murder for Being Different. And that was just, oh my gosh, I think me and my mum just bawled our eyes out at that. And I'm like Max, like I knew about the attack before we even got asked about it, because my dad used to work with Sylvia a long time ago, but so he told me about it and I was just honestly heartbroken. I was very young when it happened, obviously, but yeah, it was just incredible and I'm just still very grateful to be a part of it.
The elephant in the room, I suppose, is COVID, and which I'm sure you will have been, that thing, you know, knowing that you guys all the time will have to immerse yourself in that character, and especially when you play a character for a long, long time, I'm sure you're immersing yourselves in how they are, who they are, what they feel, and COVID specifically, you know, in such a brutal, and you played such an integral part in that, as you all did, but, you know, Mollie, you specifically were really the focal point for your difference as a character. Was that easier or harder, or is it hard to quantify really in COVID, being, you know, constantly thinking about it, you know? It
was strange because I was Nina more than I was Mollie, because obviously I'm in here, and you know, for this, you know, when we started the storyline, we were in lockdown. You know, there was no, the bars weren't open. How do you release? And I'm the kind of, like, I'm quite a sensitive person anyway, and I get very attached to things. So I'm really attached to Nina, and obviously the main part is the storyline and how tragic and awful it was, and to do Sophie justice. It was a lot in you know, as an actor, it was a dream to get the opportunity. Well, I personally would go home and I'm thinking, Nina. I think some people are different. I think a lot of people do leave it at work.
And I feel like with my character, I really have to, because of that weight of, you know, it's such a cruel, you know, horrendous teenage lad, and I wouldn't ever want to, you know, resonate that in my life, ever. But we've all witnessed it. We all know a Corrie, you know. We all know a Nina. We've all seen a Nina. We all know a Kelly. We all know an Asha. We all know these people. So I think that's why it's so important, because the younger generation is watching this show now. Because the show has changed, just like culture's changing, you know. And people, I think, younger people are resonating with it so much because they're looking at it and going, I don't know, I do know a Nina. And then they're going to look into Sophie Lancaster, and then we're raising that justice. That's what we want to do. And we're raising that message.
I think it sparked fans that weren't even fans of Corrie, so it's like people that, like you said, are people like Nina, and going through that sort of identity where people are still shaming them, and, you know, hate crime's still such a massive vocal thing, which it shouldn't be in the day and age we're in. So I think when, you know, articles and everything came flooding through saying, oh, Coronation Street have done this massive hate crime storyline based on Sophie Lancaster, people that are in Nina's position, or in a position where they just literally judged on their identity, watched the show, because I remember people saying, oh, I don't watch it, but I did watch that episode, and I was like, oh, that's so great.
Even if it's just a clip on YouTube, though, this is the thing, it's so great because Corrie obviously is supplying all that content, and like, my mates don't really watch the show, but they've been watching it and they're kind of drawn to it now, and they want to see what happens, you know. I feel like a large majority of people have been hooked ever since that first initial attack, and now with the trial and everything, it just adds them layers. I feel like a lot of people, especially on social media, were quite, at first, upset with obviously the result of the trial, which rightfully so, you know, he should have definitely gone down for it, but it just adds that extra layer to the story, and it's not done, it's not over yet, you know. We don't know what's going to happen, you know, this is the thing.
I was going to say, I mean, just going back a little bit, when it came out and people watching, like you said, people that weren't even fans of Coronation Street, I feel like this storyline has raised Coronation Street's platform as well, because it's so big. It's so big. We've got so many platforms. We've got Instagram, we've got Twitter, we've got YouTube, got Facebook. There's everything, and you can watch little clips, everything. And when it did come out, me, as well as I probably got the least. I can imagine you three got a lot as well of messages off people thinking, I can relate to this, or I know someone going through this, or I know of someone, what can I do? Can they get help? And obviously it's awful that people can relate to it. It's awful that people go through this and know someone or anything. But the best part was knowing that I could obviously pass forward like the ITV help and like the pages that they create, the things that they set up, all the helplines that they have. It's great to know that even though obviously I'm not a professional, I unfortunately can't personally help this person asking me, but I can say, hello, I hope this helps, and I can forward that on myself. And it's great because as young as we all are, believe it or not, we are role models to some people, because there are some very, very young people that watch Coronation Street, and it is great knowing that they have so much trust in you and believe and hope that you can help them. So just doing that has definitely helped so many people, and that again just makes me, as well as everyone else I can imagine, so grateful to be a part of it.
Find a lot of parents who will say, you know, oh, my child, you know, from quite a young age, that they really like Nina and, you know, they want to be like Nina. And I'm like, amazing, yes. And it's every time you meet somebody, the first thing people say is the storyline, and, you know, you stand and you chat about it, and, you know, people will tell their own stories and stuff like that, and, you know, and then I leave the conversation feeling so happy that, you know, we've helped achieve this. It's, yeah.
And you're promoting that kind of individuality, aren't you? You know, even it's not just about the alternative kind of subculture, it's about all levels of individuality and inclusivity, so it's lovely to see.
You can't wear the clothes, they say they are wrong. You can't play your music, they hate that damn song.
Perhaps the most morally complex character in this storyline is Kelly, the daughter of a dead gangster and neglectful mother. She is in the foster care of Toya and Imran. As viewers, we're invited to see her plight through their sympathetic eyes, not least because Imran represents her in court. But the truth is, had Kelly not first slapped Nina and then left her and Seb for dead in the street, he would almost certainly still be alive.
Seb, can you hear me? Come on. I'm so sorry.
So Millie, you play Kelly, which is arguably one of the most complex characters in regards to upbringing and why she is involved in this whole mess of what went on. And, you know, how did you approach kind of that, and what's your perceptions of her as a character?
I think moving along with her storyline, she's constantly got this mentality that because of her daddy issues, I think like she's like constantly trying to impress the opposite sex, and she's constantly trying to get that affirmation and that attention. So I think whenever someone gives her that, she just wants to please them constantly because she doesn't have a dad to do that to, because he abandoned her. So I think when, you know, the man in your life that is programmed to love you and give you attention doesn't do that and is just gone without any explanation, she's constantly wanting to do that in any other way she can. So I think when Corey comes along and, you know, gives her that slight bit of attention, she's like, right, I'm on it, I'm going to get that, I'm going to do whatever I can to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that kind of line, and it'd be interesting to see your guys' take on it as well, but that line between victim, villain, it's a hard question for me to say villain or victim, but is there a...
I don't know, because I still get like messages saying, nah, she's still guilty, I don't care, even if she didn't do it. And I don't know, I think in a way she's both. I mean, she did slap Nina, but she didn't go as far as Corey did with Seb, so I think it's just, I don't know.
I was just going to say, like, when Kelly first came into it, look at how she was then. I mean, she didn't have the best attitude. She ruined Asha's life. She set her body everywhere, you know, and that also was to do with Corrie.
I think that's
there's
what
always
she's
been
constantly trying to please someone else.
Yeah, there's always been a correlation there. There's always been, so you haven't always been good. You didn't come into it as a
No,
sane.
I literally came into it going, where's my dad? And then from there I was like,
just ruin everyone's
I was
lives.
just like, mate.
I think there's room for redemption, and she definitely deserves it. I think it's going to take the audience a while, but I think that challenge is brilliant for Corrie to take on, because if you're changing the audience perspective on a character, then that's just brilliant character development. You know, she did come in the show and she caused all that trouble, and she was heavily involved in the attack. Even though she did try and pull Corrie off, there was that initial slap, like we said, that in a way was a bit of maybe a catalyst to the violence that then came. I think during the trial there was a lot of sympathy for her, which is rightly so. And personally, I think if I was an outsider, I'd almost expect her to go down for the murder. But it just adds that extra bit of spice, doesn't it?
More time spent wishing to be somebody else. It's hard living life, despising yourself.
One of the most disturbing strands in the storyline is Asha's relationship with Corrie. A good person at heart, she initially ignores her instincts and loyalty to Nina in the wake of the attack, instead defending her boyfriend and repeatedly lying to protect him. Why? Well, let me put two words out there for you: coercive and control.
To be fair, I did like this.
Yeah, I was wondering what that is.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you've got 4 legs and you like sniffing your mate's crotch, look, you don't want to be mistaken for a dog, do you? I hate dogs. Yeah, doggy. Go on, doggy, go on. Yeah, take it off. Look, I swear to you, I've got something much better.
So, coming to you, Tanisha, about your character, Asha, kind of on the periphery in regards to the murder itself, but definitely involved in the storyline. Specifically, the relationship that you guys have in regards to, you know, that control element, that perhaps that yearning for acceptance and love and those kind of things. Like, what's your reflections on certainly that relationship?
Corrie came into it as a boy that Amy fancied. And I don't really know where it came from for Asha and Corrie to get together. But as they were getting together, you know, Asha was going through quite a lot of stuff. It was my very first storyline. It was the Asha skin bleaching, which obviously had a very big impact. It was very different. It was something that wasn't spoken about. It was something I had to do a lot of research on. It was something I really threw myself into. People in my own work had no idea what it was. And no one knew that you could walk 10 minutes down the road and buy skin bleach from the shop. It was a really, really important time for me and Asha. And then Corrie came into it and stirred the whole thing up. It was quite nice at first, but we all knew he wasn't the best guy to be around. But I think the fact that we were quite young sort of gave him a bit of a leeway, a bit of a, let's see how it turns out. It didn't help self-esteem very much. He wasn't very supportive. He didn't do much for her at all. And now I think that relationship was just doomed from the beginning. You know, you could just tell he just wasn't in it for her. To this day, I don't know what he was in it for.
It was always bound to go wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
From the get-go.
Yeah, and again, like the party, and then obviously that leads on to the sexing storyline with the video, which is also again correlated with Kelly. You know, I mean, he took the video without her permission. He completely pressured her, and again, she wanted to feel that love. She wanted the attention. She yearned for it. She loved it so much. And again, I think that is to do with she had no idea who she was. And because the Skin Lightning storyline was my first ever storyline, I was learning more about Asha as the storyline started. As the audience was learning who she was, so was I. We didn't know who she was before. She had no identity. She was just there. She was just one of Dev's twins. But I really feel like these storylines helped to grow, and the character development is insane. Yeah. And that's got everything to do with Nina, because Asha and Nina are total different ends of the line, completely different in every single way possible. But they've somehow made this relationship and made this friendship, which was beautiful, because they started off as his friend. Nina was this powerful woman who really, really helped her with Corrie. And as much as Corrie was horrible to her, she would still go back but then cry to Nina. And she was always there for her, and she never made her feel small, she never made her feel stupid. She never made her feel anything like that. She always made sure she felt $1 million, and she did do that. She was just that amazing friend, and again, that links into a lot of every single storyline that we've all had together.
I think we've spoke about a few times how we kind of, it's done a 360 in a way, and the development for Asha, she's grown up so much, and I think we've seen that throughout this storyline. And obviously we saw Nina suddenly became the opposite of who she was. You know, she didn't want to be that person, everything. She wanted a new identity, that was it. And then Asha was the one that she's been helping Nina. Nina's, you know, she's pushed her away a lot. But yeah, I really like the way we have had that switch over, and Nina's had Asha to lean on when Nina's accepted it anyway.
Do you think at the age, obviously the ages of the characters, and I suppose yourselves as well, you know, thinking of yourself as young adults, like, do you think there's still that immense pressure for identity? You know, when you're younger, you're constantly, well, certainly I was, personal experience, like trying to find a place where I fit, you know, and where my value set aligned with the world. Because I think when you're a kid and younger than you guys are, you know, you're constantly looking at the big bad world as like this wide thing that's out there. Like, how do you guys feel about, you know, the identity pressure for young adults now, like where they fit in society? Do you still think it's relevant? Do you still think it's a thing that people go through all the time?
It's crazy, isn't it? Because it's phones at the end of the day and social media. And so many young adults and kids are so drawn to the phone, and they're constantly applying that pressure to themselves to make themselves look a particular way to get approval from everybody. I think there's a perfect balance with social media. There's the positives if you're following the right stuff, but then there's the negatives because anybody can say anything. You know, we've been really exposed to it during this storyline. For me personally, this is kind of the first big gig that I've had, and I was really, we're vulnerable. As actors, we're really vulnerable. And kids are, you know, and you can see that. It's that pressure that they're putting on themselves to get it right, whatever that is mental, it's crazy. And I think this storyline, you know, it will teach people to be yourself, you know, relish that individuality. And I think the world will be a better place, won't it?
I love that. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, people get so fixated in the show that they actually can't distinguish fiction from reality. So it's like me and Max, they actually think we're like, when the first Attack episode came out in May, and you didn't know who did it and that sort of thing, everyone was just like, oh, you're horrible, and just stuff like that. And it does kind of go over your head because we've had such quite intense months of just spending every day together. It's just, we literally just talk to each other. We literally just say, oh gosh, people get really...
It gets to that point.
Yeah, it gets to that, but it's just great how we're all like really close, and we can just say, oh, this has happened, or oh, this has happened, and you can just go, oh, me too, but it's fine. It's like, it is a lot of pressure to go day to day and just deal with that and just sort of brush it off, saying, oh, that's how it is, that's our job. But at the same time, it's just great that you have each other to just go, like I always say to like Tanisha or Mollie or all of us, to just go, oh, so got this message, and it's just like, it's something you just talk about, and then it's fine. But I mean, we all know that we're not our characters.
If you look for it, you're going to find something you don't like. If after an episode you type #Corrie, you know what I mean, I'm going to be in the bath crying, you know. But like I said, nobody would say it to your face. It's because people hide behind the screen.
And as well, going back to Asha and Corrie's relationship, there was a few scenes as to where, obviously we all knew Corrie was mentally and emotionally abusing Asha, and obviously they moved in together, so a lot of it was going on behind closed doors. But, you know, there was a couple of scenes in the cafe, like with the choker. Nina gave Asha a choker for her birthday, and it was a matching one. They both have the same choker. But midway through that, Asha, it was before we got together, yeah, it was just a friend present. It was a birthday present, you know, nothing, no meaning behind it. And it was actually in the cafe, which shows a lot of Max's character, Corrie, because if he's doing it out in public, what else could he do? Also behind closed doors, you know? And I think that was such an important scene, you know, he was take it off you like a dog, you know, and then you were breaking up a cake, throwing it on the floor, like, go on, woof, go and eat it, treating her like a dog. And obviously Nina was there, the cafe was open, it was a public thing.
That scene said it all, really.
No,
I remember watching that and just being like, oh my gosh, that's what they've started to do with Corrie then.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
And it's because we were also in the presence of Yasmin, who has obviously just come out of that coercive relationship with Jeff. And it was evident. It was evident from the get-go. And I, coming into the show, you know, there was the first initial couple of episodes where they were quite, on the date, having a nice time, Bugsy Malone rehearsal, having a laugh. And then it was literally as soon as scenes like that started to come, I knew it was only a matter of time before something was to happen, you know, and it did. Eventually it did, and rightfully so, because, God, she needed to get out of there, you know what I mean? Now the threats get much worse, and words turn to violence. So afraid in the dark, a scream in the silence.
And so to the villain of this piece, Corey Brent, a character with literally no redeeming features, narcissistic, manipulative, calculating, and ultimately murderous. He is, to all intents and purposes, a psychopath.
Corey, don't, please don't, please. Don't stop it, please, stop it, don't! Corey, don't. Come on, let's just go home, hey? Please, stop it, please, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Corey, stop it!
So, Max's character, we've covered quite a bit about Corey, obviously in the conversations that we've been having, and thinking about, you know, approaching this character, getting into the headspace, which is obviously not you, recognizing how, you know, sensitive this is, you know, and going back to, you know, the reason why this storyline, and certainly one of the main factors of it was it being akin to what happened in 2007 to Sophie Lancaster. And like, how did you approach this role when you read that script and you saw the changes that you kind of mentioned of like Corey as a character? How did you kind of get into that headspace?
I think it was quite, I wouldn't say easy, but I think because of the script, you know, it was all there, it was all on paper. I think the most important thing with it is just being relaxed. And because we're all so close, say the scenes with Tanisha, for instance, where I'm going at her. I probably find it a bit more easier when me and Tanisha are joking around beforehand, being ourselves, because then it's easier then to separate the characters from, you know, reality and fiction. I just knew that I didn't want him to be liked in any way, shape or form. I didn't want there to be one thing that people go, no, actually, it needs to be evident that no, he is the villain, he is the bad guy. These kind of people do not belong in our society. And obviously looking at the Sophie Lancaster case and looking at the lads that did it, you can get a sense of the kind of people that do this. And they're awful people. Like I said before, we've seen it all, we see it in society all the time. We all know a core and we all seen them, and it's a ticking time bomb until something goes wrong with a person like that. But it's obviously, being sensitive with it. I do like to do my research, and I spend a lot of time with the script, and I know my motivation before we do the scene, and it's just about hitting that mark, you know.
And for you guys, you know, I suppose to kind of draw back quickly to you guys, like how are you guys similar? You know, did you, when you were thinking about these roles, you know, when you were getting into that mindset, do you find separating that real life, you know, and that juxta? So you have fun and you do your thing, and then when you're heading into it, you're in the mindset.
Yeah, we can't have a serious scene without absolutely being myself before we go.
This is the thing, it's not all that serious. Like, we are doing scenes sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, that's the, you know, we're trying to be professional, but at the same time, we are mates. We're workmates, we work together, we all get on. I mean, I know Mollie said to me a couple of weeks ago that she sometimes finds it hard looking at me because, you know, I have Corey's face, unfortunately. I'm Corey on this side, but it's tough, but it's good, it's all good.
So, thank you all of you, for sharing your identity stories and delving in deeper into the characters that you play. And thank you so much for having this chat with me, I appreciate it.
Thank you. No, thank you.
No worries.
My story is your story.
We're the same flesh and bone.
I just want you to know.
You will never be alone.